Welcome to the show, listeners. Today we have a special guest who contested the last elections against the current Premier, Daniel Andrews. Matthew Guy, he was a leader of the opposition, and we will ask about his experience and what is the current government doing, how many marks he is going to give it to the Daniel Andrews. So all these questions he's going to ask, and of course we will also touch his last campaign, what's fell short, and all those stories which we want to listen and the community want to listen. Welcome to the show, Matthew.
Pleasure, thanks for having me.
We'll start from the politics first. Tell us how many marks you're going to give it to the Daniel Andrews government.
Well,
out of 10.
Considering that the government is tripling our state's debt, which they never told the public before the election, and all of their major infrastructure projects are now in major industrial trouble, I think no one could give them more than a 3 out of 10. If they'd got everything on track that they said they'd do, then you'd have to mark them well. But when they're tripling the state's debt, the highest debt in Victoria's history, which our children will pay, and yet they still haven't got a single major infrastructure project running on budget or without industrial trouble. I mean, it's just all falling apart.
And in terms of the community engagement, we saw two big concerns which we have, like say bushfires, and then second we have a COVID-19. Do you think the government delivered up to the standards which the community was expecting?
Well, I think all the governments in Australia, including the Victorian government, did the right thing by locking us down, going into lockdown. I think that was the right thing to do. We all accept that. Victoria, though, conducted very low testing, the lowest in Australia. We weren't testing enough people. And as a consequence, we've now seen outbreaks at Cedar Meats, we've seen outbreaks at a McDonald's, we've seen still seeing outbreaks in Victoria. In fact, in the last 24 hours, Victoria has been the only state to record new cases. Even New South Wales, which is more than 1 million people more than Victoria, no new cases in New South Wales. So Victoria is a problem case in Australia, and that's basically because we haven't been testing enough people. Now the government has started testing people, it's too late because other states have done that, and it's the one reason why Queensland, West Australia, South Australia, Tasmania won't open their borders, because Victoria still hasn't got things properly set under control.
And when we say, for example, now we also have a fear in the Melbourne protest last week, we find out one case positive. So do you think the government should have controlled better?
Well, the government should have issued fines. I mean, we have all done the right thing. Every person living in Australia, in fact, we've all been doing the right thing. We've gone into lockdown. In Victoria, the government asked us to do these things. We did the right thing. Daniel Andrews said that people can't even drive to the shops. Some of them were being fined for driving having their kids on learners, doing hours. People were being fined for a lot of things. People were being fined going fishing. All this was happening, and yet we had more than 15,000 people on the streets of Melbourne protesting. Now, irrespective of the reason for the protest, the point is that we've all been told to lock down for 3 months, and then the government allows 15,000 people on the street with no social distancing and issues not a single fine. I think the public has lost all confidence in the government's ability to conduct this properly.
Yeah, and during these two big crises which we had nationally, one is bushfire, another one is COVID-19, the Indian community, they stood up very confidently. They delivered the free food to the needy ones, and they went up to the Gippsland to deliver the goods there as well. Do you want to pass on the appreciation words to them?
I think that the Indian community in Victoria did a fantastic job. There was a number of Indian temples, a number of Sikh temples in particular, that went out of their way to help in our bushfire crisis. They deserve huge praise for being true Australians, pulling their weight, whatever background they're from. They pulled their weight, they went and did the right thing and helped out. I saw a lot of pictures from my colleagues in East Gippsland, Tim Bull, who's a member in Gippsland East, Danny O'Brien is a member in Gippsland South, and in bushfire communities. And there were guys, I think it was from one of the Sikh temples in the Casey area, coming out with food and goods for some of the locals who'd lost everything. And that's a really touching sight. That shows people who just want to do everything they can to help those in need. What a wonderful, wonderful example that they've set for Australia.
Do you currently missing the active politics, which was a part of your daily life?
That's a good question. Some days you do, but not always. I think, there's a lot less stress, and You know, you can move to your own time rather than other people's. So some days I do, but not entirely, no.
Yeah. There was one comment made by you, which in Indian community, basically they haven't taken it very lightly. Like, we cannot bring the whole world. Even Labour campaigned that bite in their advertisement. Do you regret, or the interpretation was wrong?
Oh, I think Labor just used it politically.
Yeah.
I mean, they are crooks. The Labor Party are crooks. They just use any word you say and just lie. I mean, that's what it was. But it's true. You can't bring... I mean, my family's from overseas, and I made a good point. Australia has to make sure that we have a sensible immigration strategy, and I think everyone in Australia agrees with that. I'm the son of migrants. I agree with that, and I think everyone does. And I think it's just a sensible, common sense statement that the Labor Party will obviously twist for political gain, and I hope people don't listen to it. But some do, some don't, but that's politics.
In terms of the community, especially Indian community, we have a big concerns on a parent visa, which we usually advocate a lot, and especially on our radio station as well. Especially this COVID-19 crisis, you know, the Indian families, or you can say now the Australian citizens, belongs to Indian ethnicity. They are pregnant, they are looking for the support, but their parents cannot join them. Do you think in the future, from Victoria, we can give it a push to the national level leadership to consider the parent visa, which we have 30 years of waiting at the moment?
Yes, I think we should, and that's the time where you need people around you, and particularly family support. So I think that's certainly a very, very worthy visa classification to be able to push, and certainly push with the current federal Liberal National government. I mean, that's what we want to do, is be able to have people have their family around them. Yeah. And that's the whole premise of our immigration system, is make sure you've got people and your extended family, because it's better than just taking one or two people. We want to take their family so that we develop a family unit here in Australia. And I think that's what gives people the most social support, is their family. So that's what I think is very important, is to make sure we can bring families out, so not just one or two come. With my family, only my mother and her brother and her parents came. It would have been a lot easier had their whole family come out, because then when you have children or work issues, you don't need government support. You've got your parents to support you, and that is much, much easier.
And the last question now, in terms of the leadership, will you throw your hat again into the ring?
No. No, I'm very happy what I'm doing. So no, I'm going to leave that to other people. That's Michael O'Brien is a friend of mine. He was at my 21st birthday some many years ago. So I've known him a long time, and I'll support him every way.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Matthew.
My pleasure.
ਜੇਸਨ ਜੀ ਮੈਥਿਊ ਗਾਈ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਆਪਾਂ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕੀਤੀ ਹੈ, ਬੜੇ ਅਹਿਮ ਮੁੱਦਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਵਿਚਾਰ ਵੀ ਹੋਈ ਹੈ। ਪਿਛਲੇ ਇਲੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜੋ ਕੁਝ ਕਿਹਾ ਗਿਆ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਵੀ ਚਰਚਾ ਹੋਈ ਹੈ। ਆਉਣ ਵਾਲੀਆਂ ਇਲੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਾਡੇ ਮੁੱਦਿਆਂ ਦੀ ਪੈਰਵਾਈ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਹੋਵੇਗੀ, ਖਾਸ ਤੌਰ ਤੇ ਪੇਰੈਂਟ ਵੀਜ਼ਾ, ਉਸ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਵੀ ਅੱਜ ਚਰਚਾ ਕੀਤੀ ਹੈ। ਇਹਨਾਂ ਹੀ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਬਾਤਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਤੋਂ ਅਲਵਿਦਾ ਚਾਹਾਂਗੇ। ਧੰਨਵਾਦ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਦਾ। ਪਿਆਰ ਭਰੀ ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ।